Hello, good afternoon. I'm just putting in the question of the day. And we can go ahead and get started. Pin the message. All right. Very nice. I need to do these videos earlier. First of all, my apartment gets so much sunshine. I love it. But at night, the lighting in here is quite terrible. And I have one of those ring lights, but I don't like it. The light doesn't seem to be bright enough, or maybe I'm not using it properly. But I bought it here in Rwanda. And stuff like electronic stuff that you buy here, bring your own stuff if you can. So today we are talking about how to move to a new country. How to move to a new country. So, why is this relevant? I'm a location independent freelance writer. I do content marketing mostly for tech companies, mostly in the United States. There's also some in Canada, as well as in the UK and a couple other places. And right now, I am living in my seventh country in Rwanda. And I've been here about 2+ years, got here during the pandemic. And it has been a great place for me to be during the pandemic. I've loved Rwanda, but it's time for me to go. It's time for me to go. Time for me to move on to the next country. I've been ready to go, but it was just a matter of trying to figure out where I wanted to go and all this other stuff. So this has really just sort of been a process for me. Plus, when I said that I wanted to go, it was sort of difficult for people to be able to travel because of like COVID stuff. I I'm not vaccinated, and so for a while it was just too much for people who were not vaccinated to be able to get into some countries. But now that that point is over, I am free to be able to choose where I would like to go, and I've been doing some planning. And I thought that I would share some tips with you on what it is that I am doing to be able to get myself to my next country. So, how to move to a new country. Number one, you got to think about what it is that you want. What do you want out of your new country? Are you looking to change weather? You know, for myself, I'm always looking for the warmest weather. Rwanda has sort of been a surprise for me because I thought that it would be sort of hot just because it's in Africa. But when I realized that when I got here is that Rwanda is actually a mountainous country, and because we're at a higher elevation, it's not cold, but it's a bit cooler than what I was when I lived in Southeast Asia. Um, so yeah, you got to think about weather, and I've actually gotten used to it. It's sort of like a spring weather, so it's not hot, but it's not cold either. So weather, think about that. That's important. Does how many days of sunshine do they get a year? That's super important because there are a lot of countries in the world where it's a lot of where it's cloudy a lot. And for some people, if they don't have sunshine or they have to have this like a lot of gloomy and rainy days, it affects their mental well-being. So weather is something important for you to think about. The next thing you want to think about what activities you want to get into. Are you looking for more of a laid back place where you want to get into things like, nature things? You want to do a lot of hiking, maybe swimming, maybe you're a canoeing person. Um, maybe you want to go someplace where you can ski. Um, do you want something with a bustling nightlife or do you want to go to museums during the day? Um, So activities, that's important. Are you going to be available for particular events or festivals that might be happening in that particular country? Do you like music festivals? Well, look up. Maybe they have some music festivals going on in that country, and you want to be able to plan your time there around when that particular festival is there. Um, there was a person I haven't seen or spoken to her on uh, social media in so long. But there was someone that I know who would travel because of fried chicken. She would travel for fried chicken. Like she wanted to go to all the different countries in the world because she loved fried chicken and she just wanted to be able to taste, all the different places that have fried chicken. And I mean, every place, every country that I've ever been to, they've always had fried chicken. And so, there's no dearth of places that have fried chicken. But she knew the best places in the world to go and get fried chicken. That was her thing. God bless her. You may also want to think about, are you going to this particular country for some sort of school or classes that you want to take? Like for me, my next two countries are Turkey. I'm going there for 3 months, and then I'm going to go to Mexico. And the reason why I'm going to Mexico is because Mexico has a really great artistic tradition there. And when I was in Vietnam in the beginning of the pandemic, that was when I started to learn how to do. Um, I started to teach myself watercolor paint. Never really taken a class other than the tutorials that I can find on YouTube and just sort of, learning and practicing. I've gotten like small books or, taken really super short pre-recorded classes from a couple of professional artists that I subscribe to online, but never really gone in to take a class. And so now that we're all in like post-COVID season, I would like to be able to do more things in real life. And so in Mexico, in Mexico City in particular, there's a ton of art classes that you can take. And some of them are connected to a degree. Like you can get like an MFA or just like an art degree, a bachelor's in art or something like that. But there's also just like a lot of just community classes. And that's really more of what I am interested in. I want to just be able to go in and take a class for 6 weeks and learn some fundamentals with people who already do this sort of stuff. And what an experience to be able to do that um, in Mexico City. Wouldn't that be cool? So, what is that for you? Do you want to learn something? It could be a formal schooling, go and get a degree, or it could just be some classes, local classes, maybe it's cooking classes you might want to take. Um, those are always a lot of fun. Maybe there's some sort of like, learn how to make something, like some sort of a local craft. That's always really fun. A great place to be able to find that sort of stuff is Airbnb. I think it's called Airbnb excursions. Um, I don't think really African countries are really great for that. African countries are not really great with Airbnb in general. But I know in Southeast Asia and pretty much in a lot of other parts of the world, you can go on Airbnb and use Airbnb excursions and be able to find all sorts of um, you can find all sorts of local classes that are taught by actual local people, and they're usually not that expensive. So they have like photography classes. When I was in Vietnam, a, I went on a parasailing trip. Where you literally you like put on like a sort of a wing, it's sort of like a winged um, flight thing. And then I'm not going by myself, of course, I'm going with someone who's an expert, but they're sort of attached to me tandem. And then we literally run off the side of a mountain. And the parasail just sort of, or paragliding, it takes off in the air and you just sort of lean back. And it's literally like you are um, just sort of gliding in the air on a couch, literally couch surfing in the air. Awesome experience. I'm so glad that I paid money to do that. Um, what else do you want in a country? You might want to think about community. What kind of people do you want to hang out with? Maybe you want to find groups of other retired Black women that you might want to be around. Maybe you want to be around a community of writers. Um, in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico, that particular city is known for attracting artists. So there's a lot of people who are writers, a lot of people who do all sorts of art, sculpting, painting, um, I think some singers and dancers, all sorts of people. Um, Also, as far as community is concerned, it just they help finding whatever sort of community is in that particular area is just a great place for you to be able to ask questions about where you're going. So there are large travel groups that you can join on Facebook. I like Facebook. Facebook is really great for bringing together groups of people into communities of um, like-minded people. So you can find, like Black travel groups, you can find women travel groups, you can find family travel groups, um, men who are traveling for various, looking for various things. There's, LGBTQIA groups of travel, um, all sorts of travel groups. And you can go in there that are very general, just travel in general. They might be related to specific regions of the world. They may be related to specific cities in the world. So there's all sorts of things that you can go on Facebook and just do a basic search, and you can find some groups for really pretty much anything that you want to do as far as community is concerned. And it's just nice to be able to go in there. What I would do when you go into these groups is to first of all see how active they are before you join. Like you generally want to be in a group where they're posting on a regular basis, at least once a day. Um, and also to be able to make sure that the members of the group are quite active, because I'm in a lot of groups, and you want to be in groups where a lot of people are have the space to be able to share about their travels. That's really helpful. So you can do like a search within each of those groups. And let's say, like for myself, I'm going to Turkey. So I was looking for itineraries of where people were staying in Istanbul. What were they doing? If you've got 3 days in Istanbul, what are some potential itineraries that I can sort of glean from? Where did they stay? What neighborhood was the best neighborhood? That sort of a thing. Um, and also, you also want to think about finally, well, we've been talking for a while about what do you want? Your cost of living. What do you want your cost of living to be? Or what can you afford? If your goal is to save money, perhaps you want to go to a place that's going to be cheaper than where you currently live in your home country. Um, so yeah, your cost of living. So because you can go overseas and um, you can spend big money or you can spend very little money. It all depends on where you're going, what time of year, is it high season or low season, all that sort of stuff. So all that was number one. What do you want? What do you want? One, it's important for you to know what it is that you want before you leave, because a lot of times I'll speak to newbies. I'm always happy to speak to newbies about where it is that they want to go in the world. I think that's so exciting. But it really helps the person that you're speaking to if you are able to give them some sort of parameters about what it is that you want, because there's all sorts of things available. There's all sorts of communities and activities and things that you can get into. But if you don't have any idea of what it is that you want, then people are just going to sort of send you anywhere. So have some, at least a place to start. You can change it, of course, but you want to be able to know what it is that you want when you start. Okay. So number two, how long do you want to be in this country? How long do you want to be in this country? When I said I wanted to go to Turkey, I said I was only going to go for 1 month. I started doing research on what I want to do in Turkey. And then I started looking at my work schedule. And I just said, you know what? 1 month is not enough. 1 month is not enough. So I needed to figure out how long I can actually be there. Um, and so for Turkey, the visa for an American, they'll let you stay there for 3 months on a tourist visa. And so I think that's plenty of time. Um, because of course I'm a location independent writer. I do write most days. Um, don't necessarily work a 40-hour work week, but I do, I do have to work. And so and I'm also I'm a slow traveler. You got to know what type of a traveler you are. Are you like in a period where you just want to bounce around in different countries? You want to go someplace where bouncing around in different countries is going to be feasible for you. I'm more of a slow traveler. I get into one country, generally one city, and I like to hang out. Like I just want to know what's here for a few months. I don't like, hopping on a train. I'm here for 2 days, get on a plane and go to the next city, or, having to take a bus somewhere. That's not really my thing. So how long do you want to be someplace? That's important. Next, you want to be able to learn about your finances. How much do you want to spend when you get to this country? What's your budget? Are you a budget traveler? Or are you more of a luxury traveler? Or you are somewhere in the middle? You got to know all of that stuff. For myself, I'm a budget traveler, but I'm like a bougie budget traveler. But I have friends who are like super budget, like they can get into a new country, set up a tent in somebody's backyard, and they're fine. Like I need a little bit more than that. Like I need a modern bathroom, a modern kitchen, and all sorts of other stuff. And you can do all those things on a budget. It just sort of depends on what you're comfortable with. So you got to figure out your finances. How much do you want to spend? How much do you want to save? Or are you working at all during this time? If you're just going on a short trip or anything like that. So your finances, and then finally, there's a ton of research of things that go into trying to move to a new country. What I did to start organizing some of this information as I'm organizing my plans, my travel plans for two different countries, Turkey and Mexico at the same time, I just went ahead and I opened up two file folders in Google Drive. And I'm just sort of copying and pasting things that are relevant, any sort of recommendations. In the travel groups that I belong to, I've announced that I'm making this move to these two new countries, and people have said, "Oh yes, such and such person lives there. They've been there for 10 years. You should hook up with this person." And they would tag the person in the post, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, I'm here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help." And so I put that person in my folder. I make a Facebook connection request. They usually accept it. And if I have any sort of question, they're happy to answer. Or they can, point me towards another resource so that I can get the answers that I need. So um, yeah, so you want to open up that Google Drive or whatever it is that you use to be able to save information. And then you just want to start doing research on um, videos on YouTube, um, particularly vlogs of people who are just sort of going in the streets and sort of seeing what the place looks like. And sometimes you can find videos on people who are doing like apartment searches for short term people or specifically for digital nomads, so that you'll know that they have like a workspace and they have access to things that are relevant to people who are digital nomads. Meaning, does it have a place for you to work in the apartment? Is it, a quiet space, just in case you need to do like phone calls? Um, what else? Is it close to like restaurants? If you prefer to go out, if you want to cook, are there ways for you to be able to easily go and get to a grocery store? Is there delivery, or whatever it is that you want to do? You can also look at blog posts. Blog posts are really nice. I love, I really love being able to just sort of read people's recommendations. Top 10 um, places to do co-working in XYZ country. top 10 cafes to work from in XYZ country. And so what you want to do from looking at videos and reading blog posts is you really want to have a chance for you to be able to see yourself in the country. When you look at the videos and the blog posts, do you feel excited about this place? That's really important. You want to be excited about this place. When you're looking at the videos, can you imagine yourself being there? Does this look like a friendly place for you to be? Does it look like there'll be people for you to be able to connect to once you get to the country? Are you excited about the food, or is there like a particular event that you want to be able to go to? You want to be able to put yourself in your mind's eye in the country where you want to go to, in the city, and maybe even the neighborhood that you want to go to. All of those things are really important. It'll sort of help you to um, ease your anxiety, if you have any, about moving to a new country. And there's always anxiety. Like I have anxiety about leaving Rwanda and going to Turkey, and Rwanda is my seventh country. I know how to do this, and you still get a little bit anxious, but I know how to be able to work through it. Um, you want to be able to research the cost, the real life living costs of, number one, your housing. That's often your greatest expense item, is your housing. Um, you can often find in videos, like I was saying, in videos on YouTube, you can find videos of people doing apartment searches in a particular country, and they can tell you roughly the range. You want to be able to make sure that you're watching videos from at least the past year. I wouldn't say anything more than a year old. You can look at them, but you want to consider that the prices may change. But anything less than a year old, as far as prices are concerned, I would say you can sort of take that. And some of them, they'll even leave like contact information, and you can contact people via WhatsApp or what have you. But you want to know in general how much you can expect to spend on your housing, because that'll usually be your biggest expense. The food, but how much does it cost to eat? And what type of a food person are you? Do you just need some access to fruits and vegetables in your apartment? Well, you want to go to a country that has access to really great fruits and vegetables. Do you want a lot of restaurants or street food? um, do you want like high end restaurant opportunities? How much does that cost versus more midway costs, or even like budget food? How much do you need to put in your budget for you to be able to eat in a month? And then of course your transport. Are you, like here in Rwanda, I usually take, if I'm not walking, I'm usually will take a moto pretty much anywhere that I go. Um, if it's like someplace that's a little bit far, or if I don't know where it is, then I'll call a cab, or I'll find a cab on a road somewhere. But some people choose to drive. Maybe you want to rent a vehicle. If it's a country that uses a lot of um, motos, then maybe you want to rent or even buy a moto for yourself if that's comfortable for you. But you have options. Do you want to live in a place where um, the community is very walkable? You can do that. If the community is really walkable, then you don't need to worry about paying for transportation for the most part. Do you want to live in a place where it's just a short bus trip, and you don't have to worry about being safe on a moto? All of these things are things that you should research. The next thing is the flight cost. The flight cost is usually the most expensive. So if you can, you want to be able to get your ticket in um, as early as you absolutely can, because of course, the earlier you buy the ticket, usually the less expensive it'll be. If you're buying the ticket 2 weeks before you leave, you're going to be paying more than likely the highest price. Um, so yeah, think about those things, the cost of the flight. The next thing is the visa. The visa. So if you're a newbie traveler and you don't know what a visa is, your visa, so you have a passport. Your passport is what it, that's the legal piece of information that you have to carry around with you when you go to a new country. However, that just says that you can leave your home country. For me, it's the United States. For many countries, you need a visa that will be stamped into your passport so that you will have permission to be able to travel in certain countries. Not all countries require a visa. You always have to do your research online. Um, but when you do visa requirement research, all visas for all countries are not the same. So when I do visa research, I have to look at visa requirements for Americans to go to XYZ country. So I haven't gotten my visa for Turkey yet. I'm going to do that in August because I'm leaving in September. I look up online visa requirements for Americans to enter Turkey. And of course, I get a bunch of information. Now, usually you want to be able to, for you to be able to get the most relevant information, you want to be able to get um, the consulate information. Um, and then it will usually give you a list from that country's consulate. They will tell you what countries need to have a visa, um, and what type of a visa. Like I'm just doing a tourist visa. So when I go to Turkey, I'm getting a tourist visa, and I have to make sure I get this visa because it's an electronic visa, and I get the visa. I think I can just print it out and show up at the airport with it, and it'll already be paid for and all that stuff. And they can look it up in their computer system, and then they'll probably just stamp my passport and let me through. But I know that this particular visa is only good for 3 months. It's only good for 3 months. And if you want to extend it, I think I will have to. I'm not sure if they allow Americans to extend it past the 3 months. I think I would have to wait until the following year to come back. So you need to know those things. There's always a lot of small details that it's your responsibility to know about visas when you go to certain countries. So that's the visa requirements. What else? The community online. I would think we've sort of talked about that in number one. And what do you want? Do specific research about the country in some of those Facebook groups that I talked about. Um, there might be certain like bloggers online who might have a community of their own, because they've built up such a community in that particular country that they live in, that they may have some sort of events going on. They might have a Facebook group of their own of people who sort of come in and out all the time. There's all sorts of things, but you don't know unless you actually do the research. And then, of course, I think we talked about food a bit. You want to go someplace where you're going to like the food. You know, pay attention to countries like, is the food super spicy? If super spicy is not for you, then there's certain countries where um, it may be difficult or challenging for you to eat. If you are um, gluten free, you know, going to Italy might be a challenge. Although I think there was a person and I remember who'd written a whole gluten free guide to like Italy and all these other places. So it's not impossible. You just want to do your research so that you know. 'Cause there's nothing worse than landing into a country and you're there 24 hours and you feel like you can't eat anything. So you want to be able to research all those things. So to wrap it up, how to move to a new country as a location independent writer. Number one, you want to know what you want. Number two, decide how long you want to be there. Number three, Figure out your finances and how much you want to spend. And then number four, you want to do your research. We just went through a whole list of things that you wanted to be able to do in research. And that should really help you to figure out where you want to go, moving to a new country. Of course, there's all sorts of other logistics and things that you have to take care of, especially if this is your first move. You got to figure out what to do with your stuff. Personally, I say get rid of it. But some people are so attached to this stuff, it's a problem. So that's all I have for today. Please do like, share, and subscribe to this broadcast. I forgot the question of the day. I always forget that. What country do you want to visit next? Or maybe it's your first country. What country do you want to actually go and visit to? I'd love to know. You can put your answers in the comment box below. Um, so yeah, like, share, and subscribe this video. I do help people who want to be able to become freelance writers so that you can travel the world and live life on your terms. You can go to the description box and click on the link, and it will bring you to my website where you can set up an appointment. Or you can just go to halanablack.com and click on freelance writer coaching, and you can set up your appointment with me. That's all I have for today. Peace.